The story of Turtle Island. Native Americans called North America Turtle Island. The Ojibwa tell the story of how the Quiche-Manitou flooded the earth because its creatures had forgotten to love, honor, and respect all beings in the circle of life. There was no land for the surviving creatures to live on, but through the pity of the Great Spirit, the creatures repented. Mackinac, the turtle, offered his back to be the foundation of the new land. Other animals would swim to the bottom of the water and bring up mud and put it on Mackinac back. Once a small island was formed, the animals swam in a circle which caused the land to grow. Then plants, grasses, and trees began to grow on the land, and the animals began to inhabit the land. Eventually, Quiche-Manitou brought human beings, Anishinaabe, the original ones, to play on the earth. But they also forgot the original teachings as their animal brothers did. Again, the Great Spirit was going to destroy the earth with fire. The white eagle, having pity for the foolishness of the humans, appealed to Quiche-Manitou to spare them. The eagle asked, quote, "If I am able to find one person who remembers the original teachings of loving, honoring, and respecting all creatures in the circle of life, will you spare the destruction for one more day?" End quote. Quiche-Manitou agreed, and so each day the eagle flies out at dawn to see if at least one human remembers. When he finds one, he brings the news to Quiche-Manitou, and the earth is spared for one more day. Hi folks, and welcome to another video from A Plain Truth and questioning everything to find truth. Exciting next tomorrow. I find out tomorrow, the next day, if I'm going to be terminally canceled off my flagship A Plain Truth site, or if I make it through tomorrow. That's 2 weeks, and I should get the site back up and able to post over there as well. So I wanted to get into a little bit of truth movement here, and apparently there's been some calling us out for not being right about the moon being 3,000 miles up and the sun 3,163 miles is what I used to do. And I want to talk to you a little about being in the truth movement, folks. I started out right after Dubé came out with his book back in November 2014, and being in the truth movement, you got to be nutso to get in this anyway. But we have had some tremendous hits, and it looks like we've been wrong, and I want to address that today. And I did get it wrong in my book as well, so I want to correct it here. And thank you all for pointing it out. But let's be nice to each other, and we're all trying to learn the truth here. And we can do a lot of this work empirically by just observations and by looking. And one of the very first was the crepuscular rays that anyone can see, that if you're standing out in the ocean, which I've done many times, you could see this kind of scene, especially on the islands, Hawaii, those kind of places, where the sun's right there. And literally we're finding out it is right there, thanks to people like Enslaved by No Media and Flat Earth Photography and Richie from Boston. So this was always another question. This is first phase of the moon. How can the sun be coming up there, but the sun sets over my right shoulder? It never made any sense at all once you started looking at it. And you can see this at the first phase of the moon. The sunset will be over your right shoulder. Moon will be over your left. No way it can happen. No way you can see stars through the moon. How can it be? So that's luminary. So then it became a question of just how far. So we can get into that in a minute, but how can you see stars through the moon? We'll show that a little bit, clips that in a little bit as well. And then we get to learn, and again, this is, I think I learned from Eric Dubé's site, was all these flags that had the stars, the crescent moon. Isis, female divine. This is Isis, the female moon, crescent stars through the moon. Now the moon and the sun are the same size. That's what it looks like, folks, and why do we call it a sunrise? But what I got into was the trigonometry, the basics of two people standing at differences, measuring the two angles and coming up with the distance. I mean, it's not that difficult to do, and apparently there were people to do that. Again, I think I learned it through Eric Dubé, so maybe that was a mislead out to get us on the wrong path, and looks like it has been. But I did put this, actually was in my book, and so we'll have to come out with edition 2 and correct that. But as I said, we've been right on a lot of things. And one of the things I could never get my head around was, how could we still be seeing clouds behind the moon if still 3,000 miles away? Clouds aren't 3,000 miles up. But again, we have other proofs definitive that the moon isn't what it says it is when it measures warmer 4 to 6 degrees in the shade of the moon shade than it does in the moonlight. How can that be? Because all the world's a stage and we're merely players in it. They're playing us, folks. They're playing us all the time. They're working us, and it's the men in black. Why would they even put this supposed moon up there, what it is, and have names for all the Jesuits, for all the craters, when we used to have that? It matched perfectly with the clock of the day when we worked the feminine divine and followed the feminine nature nurture rules. So the 12-hour day and the 12-hour night fit perfectly on a flat earth, and it also coincides with the Native American legends and the Far and Near East Asians and the Vikings and the Egyptians, Babylonians, and many, many other cultures. But we're never taught any of this. We're all like a turtle coming out of our shell for the first time and seeing what's going on around the world and what the possibilities are. And what we're going to get into now, is starting with Richie from Boston, is using new technology, commercial technology, most Nikon Coolpix 900 camera, to judge distance. And once you get it with a camera, it's pretty irrefutable and it's repeatable, both scientific qualified, so you can do this yourself, empirical data, just like these other things of looking at the moon with your own eyes and asking people what the heck a sunrise means. But the Native Americans use the moon. Isis is the moon figure. There was 13 moons that matched perfectly with the 28 days that match up with a woman's menstrual cycle. It was all in sync and harmony, and all had resonance with the astrotheology above us. And so this is really important to grasp, but it's much closer than we think. And heaven, as someone said as well, is much closer. But the church says the earth is flat, but I note it is round, for I've seen the shadow on the moon, and I have more faith in the shadow than the church. Ferdinand Magellan.
Are you going to start arguing with them in front of everybody? Of course you wouldn't, because that would make you look insane. It just doesn't make any sense. You can't argue with them and win, correct? So there's that. Now on to this. See this video that I'm taking right now? I'm clearly, in the daytime, I'm zooming in on the moon. Let's watch this again. In the daylight, I'm zooming right in on the moon. No problem with a Nikon P900. And I can zoom even further than that, and I believe I will. There it is. You can literally see what looks to be stars shining right through it. Now let's take a look at this. This is going to be a little comparison. Right over here is the Boston skyline. See it? And right there is the Prudential building, which if you Google it, from my house to the Prudential, it's 4.7 miles away as the crow flies. Not too far, right? I could probably fly the drone over there, but I might lose it, so I don't. At any rate, plus there's an airport right here. Yeah, I grew up next to the airport watching Logan dump all day long. This never happened in my first 30 years of life. It's all pretty new. At any rate, let's watch me zoom in on the Prudential building, shall we? This is going to be a test. Prove that the moon is nowhere near 234,000 miles away. Watch. I got the tripod up. I've got the Prudential right in my sights. And here I go. I'm zooming in. That's the Prudential building. See it? Let me adjust the tripod for a second, because as you zoom, it goes up. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Prudential building. You can almost read it because it says Prudential right there. And there you go. My camera is totally maxed out. I apologize for the shakiness, but when you're zoomed out 2,000 millimeters, the camera gets shaky. That is as far as I can zoom out with a Nikon P900 to an object that I know the distance, 4.7 miles away as the crow flies. Now let's watch me zoom in on the moon. That's 200 plus thousand miles away, and I'm trying to videotape the moon through an incredibly heavy atmosphere that they're spraying right in front of my eyes. We've already seen that, right? Okay, now I just turned the camera up, nothing more. I'm still standing on the same balcony. It's still the same incredibly chemtrail day. There's the moon right there, 200 plus thousand miles away. Let's zoom in. Here we go, and as I'm doing it, there's another plane right there, aerosol spraying, but that's not today's subject, really. Okay, here it comes. Here it comes. All right, I must be maxed out, right? Nope, not at all. Here we go. Here we go through it. Now remember, They are spraying like it's their job and they're supposed to be doing it. Look how far I can zoom in on the moon. I can see those lights right there in that crater. I can see all these speckles right here on it. I mean, are you kidding me? And as far as I can zoom in on the Prudential building is so I can almost read the letters. Yeah, 4.7 miles away. And I might even Google Earth it and try to prove it. Hold on. Richie from Boston, everything that they tell us is a lie. I can zoom in more on the moon than I can on a building that I can see with my naked eye. That's crazy. They're lying to us. Do not believe NASA because they're lying about our entire origin. I put up that video.
So what are we looking at here? Again, pictures don't lie. If they are accurate, they haven't been tinkered with. We can do repeatable to self, but clearly you can see for yourself that the clouds are going behind the moon. Clouds cannot be 3,000 miles away, nor 238,000 miles away. But even our reckoning has been wrong, as we see here, and they use different filters to show that it's clearly in different images that the moonlight is in front of the clouds going behind it. So it's more likely the moon is only a few miles up, the sun is only a few miles up, and we've been lied to on such a massive scale. We are just beginning to wake up to these incredible truths and using the technology of cameras that we can all self-prove for ourselves, and we are doing, as well as the other things that are being uncovered and discovered, just as 5G technology and everything else is coming to enslave us. We're waking up in great numbers, and this is helping us understand better how massive and how big these lies have been. Look at that. It's going behind the sun. Is there any question, or the moon, excuse me, is there any question you can have when looking at these pictures? No. You have to conclude that we are been lied to on a major scale and rethink everything. And so that's why it's important guys like Enslaved by No Media are coming up with these charts.
You will notice in the pictures stars show through the dark portions of the moon. And as I go through them, I'll blow them up a little larger so you can see these stars. I'll point to one. There's a blue star here, a white star. There's another star right here. Move on to the next one. You can actually see the stars here. Now we'll zoom in and we'll see a red star with a white star right in here. And then there's three stars, a white star, a blue star, and another blue star. Okay, now this one here you can see the stars. 1, 2, that's pretty bright. Now zoom in on it. Now there's a red star, white star, showing through the moon. Moving on, you can see two stars here. There's another star here, two stars down the bottom, and another star here. So we'll zoom that up for you. There's the one on the bottom. Some stars shining through. Also we have one star shining through here. And we look at this, we see the stars shining through again. So what my point is the moon transparent? I've heard people talk about that. And as I see these pictures, I see that there's stars shining through like they had predicted.
So now re-looking at this picture, which I've had for a while, of under the dome, we can see the dome might be much closer. Circle of vision, and Enslaved by No Media is making a drawing here and others that are just showing us that what it may look like. And we're all working, to try and understand, but this is great stuff. We need to study this further. We know about the Tesla shield back over 100 years ago that they could create, so why couldn't they make an inner holographic dome and that we're encased in, that they've covered over? We can see it. Maybe it is only just a few miles high, and chemtrail planes are flying flying at a very low level, 1,000 feet, and so I'm still out on the chemtrail spray. We have quite a few measurements proving coming from the sky has aluminum and barium in them, with huge reporting from vast areas. So I do believe there is spray coming off the skies. And also we have to rethink how far everything is distance-wise. That what we've been told about measurements could be completely wrong, but that's what makes this all fun. But it just, the one just you can't argue is that the sun and the moon are going behind clouds. So we have to change everything we know about what we're seeing, and things are so close, much closer than they appear. But why haven't we learned this before? Because we've been trained, we've been professionally trained like monkeys to think a certain way, to act a certain way, and to do it. Look at this. It's clearly like a knife going through butter. There's a front and a back, and also they're illuminated from below and above. It's so apparent that the sun and moon are much, much closer. And we also know that the UV rays are much more intense. The UVB is 1,000% higher than the testing that the EPA tells us on UVB. That's why the sun feels much more intense and hot on our skins. And here we see the green flashes. So we have to start rethinking everything. We get to use our own powers of observation, and then we get the good fortune and good luck to try and tell others.
So what are we looking at,
listen
guys?
to this guy and then enjoy the beautiful music of the luminaries.
The sun in front
not the
or
stars,
behind?
but the luminaries.
Is it going to go through the clouds, perhaps? Is it going to go through the cloud or not? I don't know about you, but I think the sun just is going through that cloud there. Oh, let's focus.